What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the NS Builders Podcast. I'm Nick Schiffer, and if you guys are watching this video on YouTube, yes, I cut my face, and I'll tell you how I did that at the end of this show. Today, I want to talk about who you should hire first. Should you hire a builder, or should you hire an architect first? And let's start by talking about what the roles of each of these trades have. And let me back up for a second. I'm only talking about builder architect because there's a third part of this, as I call it, the triangle, is the homeowner, which we're going to use you guys watching this as being in the homeowner's position. If you're a builder or an architect watching this video, just kind of reposition that triangle and figure out where you stand. So as a builder, I can speak to that because, we at NS Builders, we're home builders and we do home building and remodeling. And our role in the project is to facilitate and to contract the job. Contracting the job means putting the pieces together, putting the trades together, putting the materials together, putting everything together to ultimately end up with a home that we can deliver to the client that they can live in. Now, there's a lot of pieces and a lot of complexity to that. You're dealing with hundreds of people, hundreds of human beings, and typically issues that come along with managing people. You're also dealing with getting material, and in today's world, dealing with lead times and issues with getting material or availability or the cost of material, and all of that. I'm talking about the construction phase of building a home, but we're talking about even before that, and you hear me talk about this time and time again about pre-construction. But our role as a builder is, yes, to facilitate the construction of the home and deliver a completed product. But our role before that is to help understand the constructability of the home. So in a more, I'm going to use air quotes here, normal circumstance, which I hate to use. I hate to say it's normal, but I think it's the most commonly practiced scenario, is that we, the builder, are being delivered a set of plans or a design, and it's somewhere along the lines of having been developed. It's rare for many of us as builders to get involved at the very beginning. So more commonly, we're getting a set of drawings. Hey, this is what I'd like to build or renovate. I'd like you to give me a price on it. And maybe they're talking to multiple builders. Maybe you've already sold them on your reputation, or you were referred and they're not going to talk to other builders and they just want to work with you. That's a great scenario. But our job right there is to understand, okay, well, this is the design. We're going to start pricing it. What's really important as a builder is that we need to make sure we're asking the right questions when we go into it. Yes, you're giving me a set of drawings, but do we understand what your expectations are? Do we understand what your budget is? Compared to the drawing, right? If we're looking at a set of plans and they come and they have X amount of budget, and we know right off the bat that hey, I've built a house like this and that one cost 2x what your budget is, are you comfortable with that? That, asking that question, getting that up, off the table right off the bat is helpful to both parties, because, oftentimes, for us, when we have that discussion about budget early on, we not necessarily spin it, but we make sure they understand that we're asking this to make sure we're not wasting your time. So if you come to me and give me a set of drawings, and I look at it and you tell me it's $1 million, hey, I want to build this house for $1 million, and I look at that and I'm saying, man, that house, we built one just like it and it was $2.2 million. The reality is we can't shave off $1.2 million. So we can have that conversation right off the bat and then find out, well, are they communicating their actual budget? And if they are, then we know we're not a good fit and we don't waste anyone's time, ours or the homeowners. Also, our job is to understand, is what is being designed feasible? What is the scope? All right, I see the set of drawings. I keep looking over here. There's a set of drawings. I understand what you've designed, and maybe the design isn't completed, but, well, what are the other things that really are important to you? I see a set of blueprints. It gives me floor plans, elevations, millwork drawings, things like that. But, well, how important is energy efficiency? Well, that's really important. Well, I want this home to be really energy efficient. All right. Well, what about thermal comfort? What about lighting control, or smart home systems. Some of those things aren't always detailed, especially on a pricing set of documents, and that can make a big difference. Electrical for me, for whatever reason, is the one that every time I get back from my vendor, I'm like, man, if I estimated that, I would have been off. I'm getting better, but I think it was one that I would price out, or estimate, and then I would double, and I'd be much closer when I was doubling it. But you have to ask some of these big questions. What are you expecting for stone? What are you expecting for cabinetry? What are you expecting? What are some of the additional perks that you might be looking for? Is healthy materials a consideration here? Do you want to use foam-free products? There's all of those considerations that you gotta kind of go through a checklist. And speaking of checklists, I would advise putting that checklist together so when you are qualifying a candidate, you can understand, if this is a viable project. Now, say you make it through that and they check all the boxes, you're moving on. You're still, a little bit in this bad zone, meaning that the architect has already gotten most of this information, likely has an understanding of their budget, has designed something, and now it's in your court to price. And at that point, if you price it and you're not what the architect was estimating, depending on the way that conversation happens with the owner architect. But say, I'll tell this story, and I've probably told it 100 times, but I'm going to pause here because I want to tell this story accurately. I took on a project multiple years ago, and we were given a very, very detailed set of drawings. And the goal with that was, hey, we want to get you in. We're still designing. I'm backing up here. We want to get you in to start the demolition. We're still designing, but if all goes well in the demolition, you got the job. We just got to get through the details and work through pricing. We were given a set of drawings that was literally that specified everything. The screws on the hinges, the glass, the plat, everything was specified. I had all the details I needed so I could cost price this job, meaning I could go into this with a fixed cost and know that I was going to make money and know that I could produce and deliver the product that they asked for. We came in at let's call it just over $1 million. Went back to, and at this point I hadn't met the homeowner. I was working through the architect. Architect reached out to me. We're almost wrapping up with demolition at this point, which frankly I did at cost, literally made $0 on it because I wanted to, poor decision on my part, but I wanted to leverage and get myself ahead of the game and get in front of the client and be like, hey, I'll do this at cost. I want to prove to you that we're a good contractor and we can do the renovation. Almost done with renovation, almost done with demolition. I deliver my proposal to the architect. Architect immediately kicks it back, says we have to be under $1 million. And I'm like, all right, well, if we can value engineer some stuff, no problem. There's some really high dollar value items within this budget that we're going off spec. It was designed, so yeah, we can definitely peel back. I think it was $100,000 or maybe $200,000 in the grand scheme of things. Where hey, we can value engineer these things. Kicked it back, and it was my memory says it was within hours. I got an email saying that, and it may have been days, but I got an email saying that, hey, the homeowner decided to go with another builder. And I literally was so confused. I was like, what in the world just happened? We are finishing demolition. Everything has went great. We've built a great relationship with the building. The homeowner was, happy with our work. Everything went smooth. What went wrong? And, I'd asked, and it came down to the fact that we were just over the budget. And the architect at that point had communicated that the budget was going to be $500,000. So to the client, we look bad. We look bad as a builder, meaning he's double the cost than you're telling me, then he's obviously price gouging, whatever the case is. Fast forward, and that's the point of it, is that we were put in a position where we were the bad guy. We were delivering bad news that this project was going to be over budget. We weren't price gouging. We were pricing the project as it was specified. The contractor that ended up taking on the job, I can only assume lost a lot of money and was later on, years later, fired from the job, and someone else had to be brought in to finish the job. That's a story for another day. But I found out much later on, I think probably similar time to hearing when that other builder got fired, that my price was never even delivered to the client because the architect didn't feel comfortable delivering something that he was so wrong on, and instead tried to find an opportunity to, in my opinion, take advantage of someone that was pricing it incorrectly and try to get it done for that. That's the old way of doing it. You get pricing, the builder prices it, goes back to the client. They look bad because they're over budget. Then it's like, well, why, Mr. Builder, is it so expensive, et cetera, et cetera. Our role is to figure out pricing, constructability, feasibility, site access, what's this going to take to build, and then ultimately build a product and then warranty a product. That's the role of the builder. The architect is brought in to understand what they want, the client wants, design what the client wants, and then make revisions based on the constraints that might be put in place. Oftentimes it's budget or timeline. I think of another project where we just did something similar, where an architect reached out, said that they had this amazing project. Most of the time we want to be involved early on, which we've talked about in pre-construction, but it was a great project and it was going to be preliminarily priced, so basically a bid, and then they were going to interview builders and then make a decision based on that. We priced the job for conversational sake. There was an initial budget somewhere around $3 to $4 million. We priced a job. We were at $8 million, and again, we made massive assumptions. The design was only in schematic. But we saw the level of detail that this home was going for, and we wanted to make sure that we were considering that, hey, if this is what they're going for, then we need to bring 10 out of 10 in quality, 10 out of 10 in everything we do, 2-coat plaster like we've been sharing on Instagram, like the 9s. Like we have to, this is going to be an A-plus project in delivery. $8 million. Had a conversation with the client. And the client basically wanted to know, hey, I got 2 other prices, one for 5 and one for 6.5 or something like that. How can you be that far off when they're so close? And it came down to expectations and what considerations we were making. Could I have built that house for, say, $6 million? 5? No. $6.5 million? Absolutely. It would have been a totally different set of expectations that we would have considered. There wasn't this overly detailed narrative where we could say, all right, this is only single coat plaster with applied baseboard and, applied casing throughout and, just a regular door. We were going in there with 2-coat plaster, museum base reveals around the floor, dead level floors within a 30-second, an incredibly complex HVAC system, like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of masonry work. We went into that expecting that they wanted a particular level of quality. Come to find out that the client really respected our approach and respected what we could deliver. It went as far as to say, like, you would bring a very artistic approach to this and deliver something really excellent. But in his mind, that wasn't where he found value. And I 1000% respect that. If he doesn't find value in that, then we aren't the right builder. He was looking for value in cost and how quickly it could be built. And that doesn't mean he's going to get a crap project. That just means he's going to get a different project, and the project that we wouldn't be comfortable delivering because it wouldn't hit our standards. Now, so I just told you basically, the same thing where it's architect is brought in first and approaches the builder. So does that mean, and those both sound like terrible scenarios. That's not always the case. It can play out the other way. But does that mean that you hire the builder first? I don't think so. I think what it really comes down to is it needs to be this parallel decision where it's you're talking to both parties. Now, you can talk to a builder first. Many of our clients came to us, asked us about architects. We help facilitate the architect relationship based on aesthetic, based on bandwidth, based on what their goals are, based on how that relationship we see forming is. And we oftentimes do that where we're brought in as the builder because, hey, we respect you, we want you to build the house, but we need to find an architect. And it's also the same thing where architects are saying, people are hiring architects saying, hey, we really would like to get a builder involved early so we can make sure we set the goals, set the parameters. So as design is unfolding, we are also helping understand what the budget looks like, what the schedule looks like, what's feasible, what's constructible, and work together in this parallel fashion all the way to our common goal. So in my opinion, it doesn't matter who you hire first, as long as both of them are brought in at similar times to work together, to work collaboratively, and to set those parameters and make sure that there's one common goal. Now, with that being said, there's certainly times where you're going to veer off path, and it's our job as the builder to facilitate the path back to the main road. There's going to be times where you're going to explore the more expensive design, where you're going to say, what if we added a curtain wall on the back of that house? And the architect's going to go take a hard left and start designing that really elaborate curtain wall, and we're going to take a sharp right and then price that curtain wall and then find out, does that meet what our end goal of X amount of dollars is, or can we do that within the time frame? And if if no, well, do we want to change that? Do we want to extend the timeline or extend the budget? But it's always this volleying back and forth between builder and architect, and working collaboratively with one common goal, and making sure that builder, architect, and owner are always on the same page. Guys, appreciate you listening. Really quickly, I'm doing this one-on-one consulting call thing. A lot of you guys are reaching out through DM, asking me really specific questions on your business, branding, social media, all of these things. And I'm doing my best to get back to you guys as much as possible. Also go on Instagram Live, typically on Fridays, once a week, to answer some questions live, dig into some things. And you guys know me. Everything that I have learned, I share. If I'm taught something, I'm sharing it, and I'm doing it through Instagram platforms, all of our social media platforms, YouTube, this podcast, the Modern Craftsman podcast. But I wanted to give the opportunity to kind of have a cheat sheet or a cut the line access pass. And basically I've opened up my schedule in my calendar to have just a handful of one-on-one consulting calls. It is a paid call. And what that is going to do is kind of give us, it's going to give me uninterrupted, dedicated time with you to dig into something really specific. I'm going to, make sure that we're using the time wisely. We're going to hop on that call and dig into something really specific, and hopefully something that I've learned that I can share with you and show you how to apply it to your business. This isn't for everyone, but there is a few spots left for the summer. If you guys are interested, there will be a link below. As always, we appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next week.